My name is Ethan Walsh. I'm 34 years old, and I live in a small town outside Columbus, Ohio. My father, Robert Walsh, spent 22 years in the United States Army. He never talked about the medals. He never talked about the scars. He just came home, put on a flannel shirt, and mowed the lawn like nothing ever happened. If you had told me that one dinner, one single family dinner, would turn into the night my father was finally seen for who he really was, I wouldn't have believed you. Because that night started with laughter. The wrong kind of laughter, aimed at him. My father raised me alone after my mother passed when I was 9. He worked 2 jobs. He never missed a school event. When I got married, he walked me down the aisle in my sister's place because that's the kind of man he was. Steady, quiet, dependable. When my wife's family, the Hendersons, invited us to their big annual dinner, I was proud to bring him along. My father-in-law, Richard Henderson, was a successful real estate developer. Loud, confident. The kind of man who filled a room the second he walked into it. I thought my father would fit right in. At first, it was small things. Richard asked my father what he did for a living now that the army was done with him. My father said simply, "I'm retired, Richard. I served my time." Richard laughed and said, "Must be nice to get a government check for doing nothing." I felt my stomach tighten. My father just smiled and changed the subject. He never argued. He never raised his voice. That was his way. But Richard kept going. By dessert, Richard had an audience. He stood up, raised his glass, and said loud enough for the whole table to hear, "Let's be honest, some men build empires, and some men just follow orders their whole lives. No offense, Robert." The table laughed. Not everyone, but enough. My wife's cousins chuckled. Richard's business partners nodded along like it was clever. My father sat there quiet, staring at his plate. 22 years of service, reduced to a punchline at a dinner table. I stood up to say something. My father put his hand on my arm and said, "Sit down, son. Let them talk." That night in the car, I finally let it out. "Dad, why didn't you say something? Why do you let people talk to you like that?" He looked out the window for a long moment before he answered. "Ethan, I've seen things that man will never understand. I don't need his respect to know what I did was worth something." But I could hear it in his voice. It still hurt. 22 years of sacrifice, and a room full of people had laughed at him like he was nothing. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying Richard's smug little toast in my head. And somewhere around 3 a.m., I stopped feeling sad. I started feeling something else. The next week, I was helping my father clean out his garage when I found an old cardboard box marked records. Inside were his service documents, and something I had never seen before. A citation. A commendation from the city itself, from almost 15 years ago, for organizing disaster relief efforts during a flood that had nearly destroyed 3 neighborhoods. My father had led that effort. Coordinated shelters. Saved lives. And he had never once mentioned it to anyone, not even me. I sat there in that garage holding proof of the kind of man my father-in-law had mocked at his own dinner table. And I knew exactly what I was going to do. I found out the Hendersons were hosting their annual Founders Gala the following month, the biggest event of their social calendar, attended by half the town's business leaders, and this year, the mayor himself. I made one phone call to the mayor's office. I explained who my father was, what he had done during the flood, and that the city, in all these years, had never properly honored him for it in public. The woman on the phone went quiet for a second, then said, "Sir, I remember that flood. I was there. Let me talk to the mayor." Over the next 3 weeks, I worked with the mayor's office in secret. My wife helped me keep it from her family. We arranged for my father to attend the gala, dressed sharp, unaware of what was coming. Richard, of course, assumed my father was just there as an afterthought, tagging along with the family. He even joked at the entrance, "Didn't know we let veterans in for free, Robert." I bit my tongue, just a little longer. Halfway through the evening, the mayor stepped up to the podium. He said he had an unexpected but important recognition to make tonight. He called my father's name. The room went silent. Richard's smug expression froze. The mayor spoke about the flood, about the shelters my father organized, about the lives saved because one quiet, humble man refused to leave people behind. He presented my father with the city's Citizen Service Medal, right there, in front of everyone who had laughed at him weeks earlier. Richard didn't say a word. He just stood in the corner, holding his drink, watching the entire room give my father a standing ovation. My father looked over at me, and for the first time that night, he smiled, not with pride, but with quiet peace, like something long overdue had finally been set right. My father never asked for recognition. He never needed it. But that night taught me something important. Quiet strength doesn't need to prove itself to people who mock what they don't understand. Sometimes the truth arrives on its own, right on time, in front of the exact people who doubted it. Respect isn't something you demand. It's something the world eventually reveals, whether you're looking for it or not.